Wake up, Missoula. New year, same old time lapse for the beginning opening for my morning show. Welcome back. It's been a good amount of time. Good break. I hope you guys enjoyed my Dubbin Stuff compilation. And yes, I do have a brand new Dubbin Stuff, whether you like it or not. We're going to jump right in. We're going to talk about a little bit about some city council today, along with some pre-critic, a bunch of other topics. Same old show, same stuff, but we're just happy to be back. We're going to jump right into some news items. National news, Kevin McCarthy voted Speaker of the House in the United States after 15 votes, and plenty of GOP Freedom Caucuses blocking McCarthy. So with little bit of posturing towards Trump and Trump ideals and weakening his position, anyone in Congress can decide to vote him out when they feel like it. Florida Representative Matt Gaetz was on the top of the folks blocking McCarthy basically because he never really liked him. He and others made it personal. For the first time in a long time, the Speaker of the House will basically be at an interim position that allows for GOP to remove the guy with a whim. There is a lot of speculation stating that this is the weakest the majority House leader has been in this century. Soon after the GOP moved to remove billions in funding for the IRS. Another major story that happened was that the Buffalo Bill player who was hit so hard his heart stopped. Damar Hamlin recently woke up after being on a breathing machine, and plenty of specialists trying to keep the 24-year-old alive. Buffalo Bill player Damar didn't have any brain damage associated with his heart stopping and has been vocal recently, thanking folks for supporting him. He was released this week to go on a long journey of rehab, which for many players can go in between a couple weeks to many months. But so far, this seems like it would be a season ender for Damar. Speaking of sports, MCAT will be covering the crosstown rival game between Hellgate and Sentinel tonight, starting at around 5:45. It's going to be both the girls and the boys teams in basketball versus Sentinel and Hellgate. So it's going to be a pretty good thing, and you'll be able to see that on our Facebook and YouTube channels respectively this weekend as well on the replay. In other Montana legislation, in other news, Montana legislation is in full gear, and and the GOP has a supermajority which can alter the Montana state constitution if so they wish to do so. But as of right now, Republican Senator Keith Reiser is proposing asking Congress to study alternatives to the reservations. The language in the resolution was written by Mark Aguilar. Agather, a retired businessman who is involved in the conservative politics in Kalispell near a Flathead Indian Reservation, western Montana. The draft resolution argued that the reservations have failed to positively enhance the lives and well-being of Native Americans, led to the substance abuse, domestic violence, welfare dependence, poverty, and substandard education. It also argues tribal members who don't own land have the highest poverty rate and the lowest life expectancy among any ethnic group in America. It is a big ask, and not so far a state can really handle without getting into the weeds and federal regulations, because technically the reservations existed even before the state of Montana became a state in the first place. So Montana has a supermajority when it comes to GOP control in both the Senate and House at the state level, which has the ability to amend the state constitution, which has been an obstacle for many lawmakers looking to enact anti-abortion policies in the state of Montana. So there's a lot of moving things going on here, and there's a lot of things trying to push past the red tape, which brings me to my next topic, which has to do with permitting, a lot of things moving forward. It's called a red tape relief, and these are a series of bills that are coming out, started with House Bill 113, which will remove a requirement that hucksters, anyone who sells fruit, vegetables, must get a permit from their local county treasurer. House Bill 152, with over 200 pages long, it will extensively revise the state occupational licensing rules. So your trip to the DMV might be a little bit easier. 200 licensed professionals, reducing the number of license applications that go before state boards and make it faster licensing from other states to get a license in Montana. Many of these fixes are made to make it easier for folks passing things that would be considered red tape, hence the red tape laws. House Bill 64 would instate a state committee that oversees telecommunication services for people with disabilities to give the responsibility to the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services, along with feedback from folks with disabilities and their caregivers. The 68th session has begun, and we can expect many things to be happening with the $1.9 billion budget, which includes a huge surplus of cash that seems to be leaning towards financial relief for individuals, particular use for mental health and social safety nets, which falls in the lines of which many Democratic minority, most of the folks coming out of Missoula are looking to move forward with bipartisan support and getting a lot of these initiatives enacted. Hey, there's just a lot of stuff going on here as well. Even I voiced a couple concerns and opinions. The city of Missoula also mentioned that you can get involved with your Montana legislature. You can give a comment. They ask that you pre-sign a lot of different things, and then they'll ask you to do a live comment, or you can just email your local representative to do that kind of stuff. My email, when I email my local representative, would be called SID Relief Program, and I was hoping that maybe the Montana state would consider doing special improvement districts in which certain sections of the city of different communities in the state of Montana enact SIDs to pay for sidewalks and stuff like that. So maybe potentially they could do some of the surplus of money at the state level to help enact a relief program to help with the SIDs and help paying those off in the shorter amount of time rather than have them have their 10, 20-year bond essentially. So it's like a tiny mini bond tax area for people to make their infrastructure improvements. Yeah, it's just one of the suggestions I made as a private citizen as well. So anyways, up next we have a fun video from our Winter Days camp. So Winter Days was a 3-day camp that was held during the holidays. I'm sure you guys saw the whole compilation video on our web page, YouTube, and our Facebooks. It's just called Winter Days with a Z. So without further ado, here is another one of the fun videos. I'll probably be showing a couple of these this month as we get into our 2023. So here it is.
How much can I say this to you? War is terrible, just awful. I cannot stress how much pain I've caused and have witnessed myself. I'm writing to you, not as a proponent for war, but as a witness.
Bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. Bang.
I remember the last time we spoke to each other, and it wasn't on good terms. But the next time I see you, we're gonna make up. I'm gonna give you all of my Bionicles. Every single last one of them. And some of the Star Wars Legos too. Don't worry, I'll be there. I'm not dying. I ain't dying today.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's time for Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a movie based on absolutely nothing but my just my extensive history of just enjoying movies and then getting older and more bitter. It's just, hey, it comes with the territory of like being very protective of movies that you love, and then you got a bunch of movies that are coming out just like, I don't like that. Moving on, we're kicking things off with Welcome to the World of Mediocre Tom Hanks films. A Man Called Otto will be following the man with the one red shoe. I'll be referencing the man with the one red shoe for this one. Otto follows the arc of a newly widowed man named Otto who is hell-bent on living his life like he's dying, not wanting to kill himself, just kind of wait for death. Enjoy a series of bad accents by Tom Hanks that makes you remember, wait a minute, didn't do that in The Terminal with Tucci and Steven Spielberg, which was about a guy from an Eastern European country. I mean, I mention this because Otto kind of like jumps right into that kind of accent when interacting with other folks in this film. Enjoy a movie about an unlikable jerk that will probably fly below the radar just like the man with one red shoe. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what I mean by just kind of like under the radar, and he's kind of unlikable. It just kind of just falls into these situations. Moving on. Plane. Enjoy yet another movie that bridges the gap between criminal and leader in this film about a group of plane crash survivors. Actually, it's more about people landing their plane after a storm or whatever, only to get caught in the middle of a war zone kind of type thing. So anyways, the star of the movie is Gerald Butler, and you might know him from Olympus Has Fallen, 300, which apparently he's been kind of milking that whole 300 movie for quite some time. But Mike Coulter from the Marvels, Luke Cage, hey, I liked him. He's a good actor. You get more respect for that guy. But you know, this movie shouldn't. So, which frankly, he deserves better than this. So, anyways, watch a group of passengers forced to land in a war-torn country, and their only escape is this. And the only hope is this criminal who may not be as bad as Joe Sixpack, who judged this man solely based on the chains around his wrists. Moving on. Oh, there it is. House Party. Kid and Play, eat your square head, neck-breaking hairstyle heart out. We have a remake of a series of films that came out in the height of Compton, hard streets of LA in the 90s for a generic 2020s reboot that joins two random guys who throw a house party that belongs to LeBron James. Take a glimpse into Hollywood's attempt to understand the modern black man through the 90s lens. Anyways, expect a party to get out of control, and these guys get away with it by some grace of LeBron James at the end because these movies don't reflect real-life consequences and throwing a party at someone's house. Is what you can expect. So here's a series of movies that are also coming out that you'll probably just completely ignore. This is called The Devil's Conspiracies. People like a good conspiracy and war from heaven and Bible stuff with a bit of the devil wanting to reignite a war with heaven. Set in a modern wannabe Da Vinci Code meets The Omen. We also have The Offering. Talk about a series of duds dropping this week. You have more horror thrillers being released per their contracts and hopefully getting picked up by Netflix to cover their back pay. It's a demon versus an unexpected family for this one. Then we got Seven Faces of Jane. Coming of age story from others dealing with borderline empty nest syndrome. Basically, mom has too much free time. Maybe she'll get into this whole QAnon thing people are talking about. All right, so those are your movies that are coming out this weekend. Up next, we have a brand new Dubbin Stuff from 2023. This is actually from the 1949 movie Impact. It's a noir crime film. So without further ado, here's this, and when I come back, we're going to talk about some city stuff.
No pie in the sky?
Sorry.
Crap. Nope, but he told me about another place 100 miles east of here, if you don't mind going there.
Geez, I don't know.
Come on.
The journey is usually the best part of this, but
It'll be the last time.
this is getting kind of ridiculous. Can we just wrap this up as soon as possible?
Okay.
I'll indulge you one more time.
Well, great. I'm glad you agreed. Let's do this.
Well, one thing's for sure is that I'm glad gas prices are 19 cents a pop in this era.
Yeah, if gas prices went up to 50 cents a gallon, there'll be complete and utter
Well,
anarchy.
you're preaching to the choir here. I'd be the first one with a gun. All right, so where are we headed this time?
Well, we're headed up to a southern town about 100 kilometers from here.
Mm-hmm.
No, never mind. All right, you can talk to me.
Well, I don't really have much to say to you right now, so,
It's not a wild goose chase.
I didn't really say it was.
You know, I like them mom and pop cafes.
Yeah, you told me you had a hard home life, so you went to cafes to, you know.
Well, it's more than that. It's heart of America.
You know, I like this country as much as the next guy, but
Well, America is a melting pot of all the good. You can find the heart of America in all sorts of unexpected places, not just mom and pop ran cafes. You know, how about we just stop talking for a bit? Don't worry, I'll go in alone. You want anything? I don't know, maybe like a Reuben? And with a little bit of salt in their au jus. Ah, sure thing, Your Majesty. Oh, and no pickles, please. I don't think Reubens have. Well, pickles. Yeah, just make sure, okay? No big deal. Okay, jeez. Better not get pickles on my Reuben. Come on in, order when you're ready. Huh, Pabst Blue Ribbon, eh? Must be a college town. Remember, no pickles! Huh, jackass. Alright. Oh, listen, I came here for a purpose. I'm looking for a very specific item on a menu that's... So, you got like a phone in here? Yes, it's right over there. You passed it walking in. Hey, Pizza Paul's, do you still have that 30 minutes or less deal?
All right, welcome back. We're going to be talking about some city council stuff. And I thought of kind of starting off with something that is more familiar with government and how it kind of operates, and that's amending Title 12, which has to do with the invasive work in our underground infrastructure, including, but not limited to, the TDS cable company looking to lay fiber under our fair city. TDS is going to be in direct competition with Charter Spectrum, the channel in which you're watching 189 and 190 with. This is meant to be to make Missoula this Missoula City Code works. So Missoula City Council talks about the amending process in its pretty much length. So this is what you guys expect from it.
Repealing 12.24.045 AB and moving C to 12.24.020J. Repealing 12.24.050. Repealing 12.24.70, repealing 12.24.80, repealing 12.24.090A through D, and removing E through F to 12.240.
All right, and of course, as you can see, even some of the city council members think it's ridiculous, but it's definitely one of the things that has to be done in the form of government. Is they got to make sure you cross the T's, dot the I's, and even include the lowercase j's of dotting them as well. So that's just how much it is. That's what government really looks like. So I want to kind of start off with that, kind of to reset city council, because that's the kind of government you'd expect from these meetings most of the time. Luckily I have time to cherry pick those topics that may seem interesting to you. So moving on, in final consideration, West End Homes, much like the Mullen area before it, the neighborhood is growing, and IMEG Group is looking forward to designing this whole area west of Flynn Lane near Hellgate Elementary. This is roughly 70 acres of former farmland of prime real estate. And Stacey Anderson, City Council, spoke a little bit more on this, and this is what she had to say.
Excited to see where this project is going. It's a new idea, and taking some of the form-based code, a lot of the concepts we talked about in the adoption of the subcampaign plan, and kind of putting those to pen to paper and hopefully come to fruition. And I'm excited to see what this can bring, and kind of if it's a model that we can look to moving forward for kind of innovative housing development, trying to address the variety of needs that we have in our community. And I think that this is kind of the things that we were hoping for when we were having those conversations about the subcampaign plan, form-based codes, and excited to see this come to fruition.
Yep, and that's a big thing that moving forward as well, is that the Mullen area project in general, like the Mullen area is like, it's a whole brand new neighborhood. It kind of feels like it could just as easily be a brand new city, just the amount of things being put into this area, not just residential, but commercial, not just suburbs, but also they have additional egg land being developed in this particular area as well, since it is already farmland. one of the things that the planning board brought to the city of Missoula is to be like, hey, we should try to encourage more farming, that kind of thing, maybe community gardens. But one of the things they wanted to keep is the stock of potential farmland that they might use in the future. So they wanted to protect some of that while at the same time develop a lot of these sites for increasing the housing stock. And these are going to definitely increase the kind of housing stock that you'd expect from basic suburbia. So they bring up a series of public hearings which range from parks and rec fees with an emphasis of upping the hourly rates of seasonal lifeguards, of Splash Montana Kearns Aquatic Center to about $18 an hour. I spoke in length about this last city council report. Like any other year, the park fees have gone up, including rentals and use and overall fees related to using our fair parks in the Missoula County. So these hikes are related to recent hikes in costs for operational supply costs. They went up by 47% in the years 2021 and 2022, and the fees have to reflect those costs. Also, which they created this 3-year model to slowly increase the wages within the department, like the lifeguards I just mentioned. Another meeting I wanted to touch on is a major section of downtown West Corridor is looking to get a vacated right-of-way. Brant Dolan, Service Project Coordinator, talks about the potential future of this particular site. So this is actually kind of a big deal because this is part of the what's called the former Fox Triangle, and this is where the city of Missoula has been having this for quite a good amount of time, and this is deciding to basically get rid of a section of the road in which has been a way for people to turn off into Front Street if they're going down Broadway. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a very popular corridor that people use just to pop into, go into downtown rather than being stuck on that one busy double 4 lanes of traffic on Broadway. So here's the map of what you guys can expect from this site near the Clockwork River.
So this map shows some of the concepts brought forth during the original Riverfront Triangle vacations. The planned greenway, which will include bicycle, pedestrian, and emergency access, will continue through the proposed vacation with condition 1A. That'll be a 30-foot public access easement through that greenway, and it's conditioned to match up with the Fox Theater greenway easement. And then condition 1B requires right-of-way improvements at the West Broadway and Front Street intersection before any development on the parcel. This is not a very safe intersection, and it would be an improvement to have it either squared up or removed altogether.
All right, so that was the suggestion by those folks as well, and I wanted to kind of slowly mention is that this greenway will be turned into like trails and blocked off from basic traffic, and all traffic will be forced to go down Broadway rather than taking this alternative path that many folks like myself have been taking fairly regularly. And you know, and then from now on, West Broadway, Owen Street will be your access to get to Front Street if you're going to take that throughway, and we're gonna see if this turns out to be fruitful endeavor, or this is going to be something that we have to readjust or even put a light at Owen and Broadway to help mitigate some of the traffic that may occur with people turning right on that particular section of Owen just to get on Front Street. Let's see, where was I? Let me go back to my notes. So this is the site. The city has complete control on what to do with it so far. It has some ownership with the hospital, but as far as I'm concerned, as of right now, the whole site is virgin territory for the city to use. But since the city has so much control over this, they're just trying to find the right developer and the right fit for this site, with the idea that affordable housing is at the top of their list in terms of supplying that need. Public hearing, moving on, but the big move was to reduce the lot sizes and to bolster 4-H and FFA to allow for goats, sheep, and other livestock in smaller parcels of land for benefit of this great program that helps kids. Like chickens and other small animals, the City Council, Heidi West, spoke about more of the limitations in terms of opening this door to allow goats and sheep onto smaller properties and lots of residents.
To be clear, this only applies to market goats, sheep, and an additional set of poultry. So no mini steers, no swine, no regular sized steers that'll be appearing on people's residential lots. So the highlights are that students have to register with animal control. So they have to verify that they are an enrolled member in either FFA or 4-H. And their enclosures have to be a minimum of 20 feet from neighboring or adjacent occupied dwellings. And they, of course, have to also keep them clean and not cause nuisance to surrounding neighbors.
So yeah, this is opening a door, and hopefully this won't open a can of worms. That's just basically how it is. They're trying to feel if this is a good addition. And back to the barnyard, city edition, as we develop more and more, there are limitations to keeping these farm animals in check. But with chickens being allowed for some time now, it only makes sense to kind of expand these kind of parameters. But also they wanted to stress that this is a seasonal time limit, so these are marketplace kind of sheep and goats, and part of this would only apply for residents as a seasonal time only between April 1st and September 30th, while the process of the fair, because this is to help bolster kids and to help encourage kids being able to raise some of their goats and sheep. When it comes to bovine and that kind of stuff, a lot of times you have to have that kind of farm ranch connection to be able to go out there and do that. And FFA and 4-H is a great organization to actually get in contact with a lot of those ranchers that work very well, because hey, they're looking for folks that are really interested in farm animals and farming in general to kind of supplement them as they move towards retirement. So this is it's a big thing, and there's a lot of people kind of moving further and further away like that. My dad grew up on a farm, and he could have easily taken over the farm, and I could have been a farm kid, but he was just kind of sick and tired of it. It's interesting how, like, you know, you need to have that kind of representation, and even folks who've never worked on a farm or anything like that, there's still these kind of opportunities for them to do as well. I'm a huge advocate for 4-H and FFA. I've never done it, although now that I kind of look back and see how many benefits and scholarship money that they got from selling a lot of their bovine and animals, I'm just like, I probably could have paid my college if I would have did for FFA for at least like a couple of years, and then like easily gotten like $40,000 to $50,000 in scholarship. Just like, it's insane just how much people buy a lot of these steer and bovine and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, the Montana legislature is in full swing, and I talked a little bit about this, and I'm talking a little bit more about this. And the Missoula hires a lobbyist to represent Missoula and their interests and get bills passed and money for our community. But there is more, but essentially Missoula has legislative investment and impacts how we grow, govern in our municipality. Those resources are available at leg.mt.gov, which is a great resource for you guys. And it is a way for you to get in contact with the Montana State Legislature. So I'm going to bring up this page. So the Montana legislature is in full swing, and if you have, if you want to have your say to all this kind of stuff as well, session information, legislation, bills, and all sorts of things that they're moving forward with. There's just a lot of things moving forward as well, and there's definitely going to be a lot happening as well. We have a strong Republican majority, and there's just not much things to stop them from passing a lot of different things. So. And then, like I mentioned before, there's a way for you guys to speak out, and Sandra Versika says it very perfectly in how you guys can get your voice heard at this Montana legislation.
If they do want to testify for a bill that is important to them, whether they are for it or against it, it is, and you can't make it all the way to Helena, then you can testify remotely, and all you have to do is on the legislative website, the main page, it says have your say, and then as long as you you sign up for remote testimony before 5 p.m. the previous day before the hearing, then you can have your remote say. And I have heard from multiple people that even if you don't know if you can for sure make it, sign up anyways, because like even if you can't make it, then they won't be wasting any of their time because you won't be logged in. So then they'll just not even know that you weren't even there. So that just gives you a link to the meeting so that if you have a possibility and want to, then you can remote testify as long as you sign up 5 p.m. the day before.
Cool. So that kind of explains everything pretty clearly. You know, it's a very simple legislation session, and kind of on the coattails of the legislation here's Jeff Badenoch. He's a community leader here in the city of Missoula. Has worn many hats in the city of Missoula. He talks about the Montana Constitution and how the people are poised to update this every 10 years, and this upcoming session, which would be in 2024, would be up for grabs in terms of updating the Montana State Constitution. Here's Jeff Badenoch.
Since this choice comes only once every 10 years, it is among the rarest things voters are asked to consider. Who can remember how Missoulians voted on this question in decades past? Consequently, very few people are aware of or understand the implications of this vote. Consider how many people have become new voters since we last considered this question in 2014. Consider, too, how many people have moved to Missoula and Montana in the past 10 years. They all came from places where this vote does not occur. The Missoula League of Women Voters will be undertaking a public education program over the next year or so to inform the people of Missoula and Missoula County about this upcoming vote. We will talk about the origins of the question, where it appears in the Montana Constitution and in state statute, as well as the history of local government review in our city and county. To be clear, the Missoula League of Women Voters does not have a position as to whether Missoula voters should cast their vote one way or another to study local government.
Okay, so that was Jeff Badnock talking a little bit more about that. Constitution's up, going to be up for the next couple of years. And hey, you know, like, I mean, the state of Montana just celebrated 50 years of our Constitution, which has been basically held firm for the last 50 years. I mean, like, anecdotally, we, MCAT, we went over to the law school, we filmed their 50th anniversary celebration, and many of the people, even some of the folks that were lucky enough to actually help write the Constitution for the state of Montana were very enthusiastic and very, very proud of the Montana State Constitution, because it's one of the few constitutions in the United States that have only been amended about 3 times. So it's interesting because you never know, because, you know, like, the state of Montana, like, is it a good thing that the thing hasn't been amended 3 times, or is it a bad thing just based on, like, it's like, oh, it's good enough. Oh, it's good enough. We don't want to worry about that. We don't want to worry about that. So, you know, just thinking about it from that perspective, we're just like, it's there. We don't need to bother with it anymore. And then just kind of people just kind of let it slide for a while. But I think this next couple of years are going to be very much like, okay, we got to figure out what we're going to potentially do with this. And then the vote will be happening in the next legislation session. So about a year, 2 years basically. So city council. Let's see, let's talk about this. Oh, I think this is also very important because, you know, like, you want to get involved with state government, but this is another section on how you can actually get involved with local city government, because they're doing what's called a Citizens Academy. This is something that they did in the past, but because of the pandemic, they weren't able to meet in person. So this is basically kind of like a ride-along, but with city staff. So here is Gwen Jones talking a little bit more about the Citizen Academy.
It's focused on city government and basically what we do and how we do it. All of the different city departments come in and talk with the cohort and have PowerPoints and explain what they do. One of the most popular one is our streets presentation. People love the parks presentation. It's really fascinating because people don't realize how much the city does. There's a lot that goes on. There's a heavy workload, and we've got great people working for the city, and it's a chance to share that.
All right, and the Citizens Academy can be located on the library, on the City of Missoula's website, ci.missoula.mt.us. All right, we're going to jump into committee meetings, and most of these events, most of these quotes are going to be about different kinds of things, different things happening within the City of Missoula, and we're going to be talking about public works, in which they're actually talking about a great opportunity through RISE, which is the part of the Build Back Better grant series. You know, it's going to replace the Build grants. And so it's called RISE. It's called Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. And so here is Aaron Wilson, for the Infrastructure and Mobility Planning Manager, talking about improving the rail system. And so what that means is it's essentially this raised money for this particular session is looking into getting grant funding to, let's say, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought right here, but I'm trying to bring up the quote. All right, so Aaron Wilson talks a little bit more about how this grant money is going to be utilized for.
A pretty exciting opportunity to get some planning and feasibility work done to create essentially the Western Montana portion of that rail corridor that goes from DC to Seattle. So this is a project has national importance or scale, regional scale, even local in Missoula. Parts of the Milwaukee is one of our primary commuter corridors. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and it's pretty exciting to see those counties and the city of Missoula potentially being able to collaborate on a much bigger grant. So as I mentioned,
okay, so part of this is a big chunk of that. This is a project that Missoula has been looking to get federal funding for, like Build Grant. which stands for Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development. But RAISE has a 100% funding opportunity that eclipses the build has been doing for our community, like many of the improvements to the new Mullen neighborhood project that they've been working on. So they got that $13 million grant. They wanted to get $26 million, but because they got the $13 million, they decided to create this new neighborhood through George Elmer, that kind of thing. So this is kind of part of that. And so part of what this committee meeting was, so that the city would pay $2,500 to make a feasible study to apply for this particular grant. The city agreed to move this to Monday's meeting. Committee of the Whole jumped into JEDI once again to create a joint board between city and county to address equity amongst our citizens and to bolster folks in our community. Donna Gockler, the advisor of this, and Parks and Rec director, spoke on this a little bit more, and this is what she had to, hold on a second, I have to find it.
One of the goals, I believe, of the city council for years has been to have a diverse representation from our community on all of the appointed boards. And you've done much work in that area. And I know that the city council has been very adamant about all residents being welcome and comfortable at council meetings. And the thing, I guess, that I have learned through the years of work now with the National League of Cities and training is that even though we try to be as welcoming as we can, that doesn't always equal I'm comfortable being there because I haven't felt welcome in the past. And so one of the roles of the advisory board would be to help us as leaders in the community and elected officials make sure that not only are we stating that we're welcome, not only are we saying, making space to be welcome, but that people feel comfortable coming through that door. And those are two different things.
All right, so that's Donna Glockler speaking a little bit more background on that and the JEDI program and what it means. I mean, I hate to throw the city under the bus, but having police as security presence there at the entrance to the chambers makes it hard for some folks to have who have a rough time in Missoula and with economic disadvantages. Dealing with the police and justice system kind of go hand in hand. I'm just giving my 2 cents on that particular thing as an individual. I've been to the city chambers a couple times and it's like, oh, okay. Just like walking through and like through the doors just to the entranceway of the city council chambers, you have like a police officer just kind of standing right there, just like, excuse me, okay, thank you. Anyways, Mike Nugent talks action versus all the talk and what basically responds to what Donna Glockler has been saying. This is what Mike Nugent, City Council, had to say.
Get wary of government just doing things to say that we're doing things so we feel good about them. So what's our success? How are we going to track success to make sure that what we're doing here is actually accomplishing things rather than just letting us say we have a JEDI committee?
Sure. And, that's obviously something we're grappling with even within the city's strategic implementation work team. Some of the things around success that we're looking at is working with our health partners at Partnership All Nations and City County with the community health assessment and our ability to segregate data around low and moderate income neighborhoods or by different populations, whether it's aging, people of color, people with disabilities, for example, and what are their health success ratios. Another way we can do that is we can look at things like home ownership if we have that data, because it's through home or some other property ownership that people actually achieve economic health and ability to not have complete, economic failure or crisis because you own nothing.
All right. So that was the response to Mike Nugent's question on that particular instance. The ARPA funds that went into this program were meant to look in racial representation, but the city of Missoula angle it towards economic advantages and disadvantages in our community. I generally never hear too much about the JEDI within the city, except for these kind of updates that they give folks on what they're doing with the JEDI program. So John Contos spoke again against this and how the city's approach is kind of a little bit skewed. So this is what John Contos had to say towards the end of this meeting.
I thought about this quite a bit. I was having a conversation with my daughter a few months ago, who's a student at MSU, and I was explaining what the Jedi was all about, and she said, "Isn't that common sense?" I said, "Well, yeah." And so I feel strongly about not creating a program and a budget to help people with common sense, to treat
Oh,
people better. Now, I totally get we all have prejudices. I grew up in El Paso, did not like Mexicans, did not like black people, all of that. But that changed when I started getting a little bit older and also started reading the Bible that helped me understand you need to be nice to people. And I think that's free. And as someone else has said, I think creating a program to help people to treat people right, they're either going to or not. Programs don't help people change. They have to.
all right. So that was John Contos speaking against the program in general. You know, in this meeting, they did move this to Mondays for approval. So there's a lot of back and forth between this, but you know, John Contos was very vocal against the program as it is, but is very proponent for equity in its essence. So Budget and Finance Committee, we're going to jump right into that. You know, I'm definitely jumping all over, but there's a lot to talk about for sure as we're just getting out of the holiday season. So they spoke about various things. From one thing that caught my eye, and that was river access to folks who fall under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, which also looked to add something cool for folks who have trouble accessing the river in general. So Nathan McLeod with the city talks a little bit more about the improvements that are going to be made towards Karis Park.
Of all the improvements in these plans, the access at Karis Park was ranked as one of the most desirable improvements in our public surveys. And if I can, I will share my screen briefly to look at the concept that we have developed. So this came out of the Clark Fork River Restoration and Access Project, where we looked at conceptual designs for this particular location. And so this is the Karis Park River access is directly adjacent to Brennan's Wave, and it ties in really nicely with the improvements that were made in Karis Park last year. Overall, the goal for this particular location is to provide an ADA accessible ramp all the way down to the water. And what's really unique about this is that there are no locations in Missoula, and to my knowledge, far beyond that, where there is actually ADA access to the water's edge of a river, in particular the Clark Fork River. And so this is a pretty special thing that we're going to be able to do in this location.
And then, you know, just one of the big things as well I wanted to mention is, you know, you can see how the trail is starting to bend a lot closer to it. And a lot of berms have been built up along the river to kind of protect it. But what they're definitely going to be trying to do is just trying to improve the whole area. It looks like they're even putting a walking roundabout just above it as well. So, yeah, this is a interesting project that they're moving forward with. And anything that they can do to improve access to the river, it just is going to help benefit many folks in the city of Missoula moving forward. So seniors, children, other folks who have mobility issues will have the ability to get easy access. And the image shows that the trail adjacent to the river as well. The current river access gets about 80 people per hour during their peak times. And so far, the city and Downtown Partnership are highly invested in improving one of Missoula's most visited parks. The total cost behind the grants would have a funding not to exceed $131,000 directly from Missoula Investments. On top of that, they'll be looking into getting some grants as well, because this is not only I guess a public interest, but also a private interest, as well as Karis Park in general is a very, very popular park that a lot of people go to, especially seasonally for the summer days and just like watching people going on the wave. Symphony in the Park is another big thing as well, and this is definitely one of the most visited parks in the city of Missoula. And I mean, you just can't quantify just how many people go out to lunch downtown tonight. It's just insane, just amount of people there as well. So that concludes my City of Missoula City Council report. If you're interested, you can go to ci.missoula.mt.us. It is a wonderful website meant to kind of guide you on permitting processes, getting involved with government, signing up for Citizen Academy, in which the city is advocating for. Another good website as well, it would be, what's that called? Engage Missoula. And Engage Missoula is the actual, let's see, Engage Missoula. Let me just bring that up real quick, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as well. Engage Missoula. So the whole, it's an online engagement platform. We want to know the comments help us make a better decision and design projects. They just want to make it easier for folks to be able to look up projects that are upcoming. See, there's the West End home annexation and subdivision, and this kind of goes over the map about what they're going to be doing in this particular area, and they have a lot of plans and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's going to be a 260 lot major subdivision, 71.39 acres located west of Finn Lane. Track E1. I'm not going to get too into the weeds on that one, but I just wanted to mention that as well, that Engage Missoula is the best place for you guys to get engaged with all the projects, future projects, past projects, projects that are in their twilight, projects that are in their sunrise, that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's pretty much everything I needed to say about City Council. If you're interested in going out and about today and tomorrow, let's talk about some events that are happening. Moms and Littles Club at the Valentine Community Center for Moms in Missoula. Bouncy houses, activities, songs, stories, play area for kids, coffee, tea, and cookies. It's also a place to have the indoor soccer and dodgeball tournament. Great place to host a kid's birthday party because they have those bouncy houses indoors. So it's an interesting, fun place to go as well. Regular library stuff is happening here at the library. Tiny Tales and Story Time starting at 10:30 a.m. on the second floor of the Missoula Public Library. Yarns and Watercolor, noon on the fourth floor of the library. Food bank programs on the top of their regular hours starting at 10 a.m. They also have their Families First at Empower Place. Families First is going to be doing their Learn Lab from 12 to 5 for crafts, coloring, and more. There are hands-on learning center located at Missoula Food Bank Community Center. This is dedicated through the partnership of the Missoula Public Library, Extension, Missoula Food Bank, and just so many different things to work and enrich the lives of the children. And also, Missoula Food Bank does not discriminate based on economic income. You can be a rich person who's a miser, and you can get food there as well. So they have that option for many folks who just want to get cheap, nutritious food. And it's just right next to a bowling alley, too, so why not go bowling after the fact? So pop in and painting with a twist. If you are in the driver's seat and you choose your painting, the surface of the paint in any time and day of the night. So this is like kind of drop in. So starting at 1 o'clock, Painting with a Twist does kind of like mountainscapes, paint the canvas or wood. They're basically giving lots of suggestions, and pop in and paint. It's a drop in or pop in. Parents' Night Out. So this is important for you parents out there. From 5 to 9 p.m. They're going to be doing this monthly on Fridays, and this is going to be a great opportunity to drop off your kid at the YMCA and then go out and have a date night between 5 and 9 p.m. Enjoy the night out while your kids are cared for in a safe space with plenty of friends, dinner, and adventure. Kids will enjoy pizza, a movie, themed activities, fun activities, but this is not cheap. It's going to be $45, or if you have $35 with YMCA membership, additional child is $30 or $20 for membership, so you can spend anywhere between $35, $55, $75, and so on. John Floridas will be with Jennifer Sladen on cello at 10 Spoon Winery tonight at 6 p.m. Worldwide Cinema, Missoula Public Library is hosting Worldwide Cinema featuring the movie Cocoon from Germany, which is a tale of the metamorphosis of a young woman depicting teenage sexual desire and life from the city during the one scorching summer. And hey, I want to watch Steve Guttenberg's Cocoon any day over this one for sure, but it's going to be an international film called Cocoon, and I believe it's going to be a coming-of-age film, and it's based out of Germany, so it's going to be pretty fun, and it'll be here at the library, and they'll open the basement elevators, and basically you'll be able to get to the elevators and only go to the 4th floor, and so this is going to be from 6:15 to 6:45. This film starts at 6:30. Late entry is not allowed. All right. Finally, happening tonight as well is Benefit for Blue Mountain Clinic is ESP Motor Horn Norway. So local is ESP Motor Horn Norwell play at Showcase Benefit at the ZAC. Margie Cates. Do you like singing? Enjoy local singer Margie Cates. I've met her a couple times. Very good singer. She used to sing for the Whiz Pops. She'll be at the Old Post tonight at 8 p.m. Benevolence, or Union Club. They return to the Union Club and play original blend of folk, rock, and jam music. They're John Kratz, guitar and lead vocals. Mike will be on mandolin vocals. Holly Riley, violin and vocals. Daniel Keeley will be on drums, and Ryan Stiles will be on bass. Not the Canadian Ryan Stiles, the one from Whose Line Is Anyways. All right, Saturday, Missoula Valley Winter Market. It's a great way to kick off your Saturday. And if you want to supplement your farmers market, winter market is happening all winter long at the Southgate Mall, starting at 9 every Saturday. Story time at Travelers Rest. This is going to be part of the back roads of Montana. MCAT goes out there and films these every Saturday at 11 a.m. So if you guys miss it, you guys can always check it out through the MCAT's link through their Zoom. So we hook up our camera to their Zoom link, and they're able to get a nice professional picture and audio for them to basically project their storytelling. And they're going to be talking about the Rack Roads, hosted by John Twigg. Will be joined by William Marcus and other members of the Black Roads crew to share some of their favorite backstories. It's $5 per person, and it's free for memberships of the Travelers Rest Connection. The MCAT Saturday Drop-ins is also happening. Hey, if you have a kid who's interested in media, making movies, that kind of stuff, Saturday drop-ins are best place for kids to kind of join in. We kind of start kids with stop animation and see if they want to do any kind of live action stuff. It's very limited time. It's kind of like we create a space that facilitates kids' creativity, and it's a great opportunity for kids to drop in Saturdays from 1 to 3 p.m. And it's always good to get here early. Makerspace 3D printing piece cranes, Missoula Public Library, starting at 2 and going to about 6 p.m. on Saturday. Patrons of all ages are invited to Makerspace to fold origami cranes, and then learn the process of 3D scanning, 3D printing using those cranes. So you make your own crane, and then they scan and 3D print them. That's cool. Richie Reinhold is going to be live at the Old Post Saturday night at 8 p.m. Also, karaoke at Westside Lanes at 9 p.m. Mudside Starley is going to be Union Club at 9 p.m. Saturday night. And also, finally, wrapping up your Saturday will be DJ Chris Moon at the Badlander, who's there every Saturday at the Badlander doing those music. So if you like that kind of stuff, good for you. Sunday, Dance Wonder is going to be at Westside Theater. Dance Wonder is an open dance movement studio accompanied by a soundscape to welcome ease and care for listening to body and let go and thinking. So it's basically a drop-in dance, a contemporary dance thing happening Sunday at 9:30 a.m. You got Plant Swap at Western Cider. So this is like a maker's fair, but for plants. So the Plant Swap is here. Grab your house plant clippings and head on to the Western Cider to swap plants and meet the plant community. Bring any healthy plants or props you want to swap. No rescue plants. You can take up as many cutting plants as you bring. Hosted by the Missoula Plants, sponsored by Missoula Botanical Society. And then finally for your Sunday is they're going to be celebrating Bonner, past, present, future. This is at the Bonner Kettle Tap Room. They only do about 3 of these a year, and they still have plenty to talk about in Bonner. And since 1886, there have been a mill in Bonner said to have been built on the land purchased for $100 and a cow accompanying the mill. In this pastoral company townhouse mill managed for supervisors. In 2008, the mill was actually purchased and its equipment sold in auction for 3 years. The fate of the mill and houses has been uncertain until 2011. Announcement that Steve Nelson and Mike Bone of Bonner Property Development, LLC, has purchased the mill property and later the houses. So there's a lot of things happening in Bonner as well, and they have plenty of history to talk about, and they do that on some Sundays throughout the new year, every year, and they only have about 3 of those. So if you miss it, you miss it, but you'll always be able to watch them on MCAT later on during the day as well. So MCAT news, any kind of new things happening with MCAT? We are going to be moving more towards our Spring Flicks camp, so we'll be doing a spring break camp, so put that mark your calendars. It'll be from March, I got to remember it off the top of my head, but March 20th through the 24th of this year, we'll be hosting a Winter Days camp. It's from 10 a.m. to about 4 p.m., and it's going to be a great opportunity for kids to jump in and do some media, arts camp, and stuff like that. We in terms of adults wanting to learn this kind of stuff, you can just drop in. So that's the point of MCAT, is that with all the hours that we have here at the library, which we are open at 9 a.m. and we're opening most of the hours, you can drop in, you can ask some questions, but when it comes down to it, you have to be a self-starter if you're going to survive the fast-paced world of public access television. So what I mean by that is that we have orientations every Saturday. We kind of go through the nitty-gritty of what MCAT's all about, and we are a facilitator of people making their own shows, much like I'm doing right here. Mine is a little bit more simplistic because I'm a one-man band, switching cameras and just showing content and stuff like that. So I've been doing this for a good amount of years, and I kind of know what I'm doing, I guess. But, you know, that's just the folly of doing a weekly show that is very timed, and by the time this airing, it's already passé and past. So that's pretty much it. That's all I got to say. I'm happy to be back for the 2023 year and for Wake Up Missoula. I'm Scott Ramp. Take care, guys.